Part 33. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 321. Nonsense. Mr. Zheng Ji stood up suddenly and scolded angrily. You know, although the alchemy conference is held by the ancient alchemy pagoda, the authority to announce this name belongs to the imperial pavilion. He can ignore the lunatic, but this action simply treats him as if he is nothing. The master of the Danggu pagoda Xuanhuan is crazy, and the right to host this alchemy conference is handed over to the great elder Yushi. If the Juyan sect makes any more noise, they will be expelled from the conference. If they resist, they will be destroyed according to the Empress order. Mr. Zheng Ji gave the order directly. This statement was unanimously approved by the Lai sect and the Danggu pagoda disciples. In the eyes of these people, although Yushi has special quirks and is very thick-skinned, he is indeed the only candidate to host the conference now that Xining is crazy. Take orders. Yushi was immediately overjoyed and stepped forward to offer his hand. Xining was dissatisfied and stepped forward to question, "May I ask Mr. Ji, what's the problem with what I just said?" Zhang Chen's alchemy talent determines that he will be the first in this competition. Why waste time and have to compete? Mr. Zheng Ji was too lazy to talk to the lunatic, and just shouted angrily, "Back off. Anyone who hinders the opening of the alchemy conference will be punished by the 5 destructions. Then let's wait and see." Xining's eyes turned cold and he returned to the main seat of the tower. Hearing this, the people of Juyan sect also had anger surging in their eyes. If now was not the time for a head-on confrontation with the imperial court, they would have to go together and tear Mr. Zheng Ji into pieces. But since it's a comparison, let's compare. Anyway, everyone participating in the alchemy conference this time is our own people, and the outcome will not change in any way. Seeing that everyone was quiet, Yushi stepped forward again and shouted loudly. The alchemy conference has officially begun. Same as previous years, there are 3 trials in this alchemy competition. The top 30 will be selected in the first trial, and the top 10 will be selected in the second trial. Only the top 3 will be selected in the 3 trials, and there will be rewards for each. The first place will get a copy of the Ancient Pagoda Alchemy Volume Opportunity. Speaking of this, Yushi stroked his beard and said with a smile, "And the alchemist who can successfully enter the 3rd trial will have the opportunity to compete with Lin Feng, the number 1 true disciple of the Alchemy Pagoda." As soon as he finished speaking, he regretted it. When Lin Feng was mentioned, why was he laughing? No, when others heard this, their eyes became obviously more intense. Cough. After coughing slightly, Yushi restrained his smile and continued. The first test is to identify objects for hearing the elixir. As the name suggests, this test tests the alchemist's familiarity with alchemy materials. For the sake of fairness, the elixir is provided by the alchemy pagoda, with a limit of 1 stick of incense, and only the first 30 alchemists who successfully debate the elixir will be given the chance. Can successfully advance. Without further ado, the first test is officially launched. Say it. Many disciples of the alchemy pagoda walked into the alchemy platform and handed the elixirs that had been prepared and contained in the alchemy boxes into the hands of the alchemists. Looking at the pill box in his hand, Zhang Chen frowned slightly. Seeing this, Yushi smiled slyly. As the great elder of Danggu pagoda, it was not easy for him to interfere in the alchemy conference. The elixir in Zhang Chen's hand is different from other alchemists. It is called the Po Yuan Killing God Elixir. The level of this elixir is level 7, and it is a veritable poison elixir. Although it is useless to monks in the lower 4 realms and Yuan Dan, it can poison the monks in the upper 4 realms who have Yuan Shen. Let his spirit collapse and all his cultivation be gone, irreversibly. Because it is too vicious, the Po Yuan Killing God pill has never appeared on the market, and very few people know about it. Except for the master of the ancient alchemy pagoda and the elders, It is only recorded on the ancient pagoda alchemy scroll. Yushi's idea is simple. He suspected that the theft of the ancient pagoda pill scroll must be caused by Zhang Chen, so he specially prepared this pill for Zhang Chen to test. If Zhang Chen successfully reveals the ingredients of this elixir, he will be convicted of theft. If Zhang Chen can't tell the difference, he can be eliminated in the first round. The only thing to worry about is Xi Ning and the other Dangyuda elders will see that he has tampered with him during the competition and stop him. These people are all lunatics, and for some reason they are all on Zhang Chen's side. You must be vigilant. Thinking of this, Yu Shi took a look at Xi Ning and others. When he saw this, he was shocked. As if they had known for a long time that he was capable of manipulation, Xi Nian and others looked at the elixir in Zhang Chen's hand and frowned tightly. But, that's all. I don't know what they thought of, but Xi Ning and others just laughed a few times and then looked away. What are these crazy people planning? Yu Shi suddenly felt uneasy. On the other hand, look at Zhang Chen. With the pill in the pill box and the ancient tower pill scroll in his memory, he recognized it at a glance as the Po Yuan killing god pill. And its structure is very clear. At the same time, he also noticed Yu Shi's purpose and couldn't help but sneer. He had already expected that Yu Shi would do something, and was fully prepared. Isn't it because he was exposed to the ancient Tadan scroll? What a fright! The reason why I concealed it earlier was that the charge of stealing affected my composure, and I didn't want to take the blame for the dog system. But now, what if it's exposed? Do you have any evidence? He is the only son of the Fengling Zhang family. He comes from the upper realm. Isn't it a good idea to know some rare elixirs? Moreover, I participated in the alchemy conference this time because I was worried that under the influence of the villain's aura, the ancient tower alchemy scroll would be exposed to the public sight due to some coincidence. Therefore, long before the elixir meeting started, Zhang Chen handed the ancient pagoda elixir scroll to Mu Kuei for safekeeping. The reason why Zhang Chen chose Mu Kuei was that compared to Qing Ning and Zhang Hu, although Mu Kuei was crazy, he was still steady and never asked too many questions. A steady push. Thinking of this, Zhang Chen prepared to answer the question. But he hadn't had time to act yet. An unknown and plain-looking alchemist beside him glanced at the pill in Zhang Chen's hand, then suddenly stood up and said, "With my attainments in alchemy, I can't identify the pill in my hand, so I give up." In previous years, many alchemists gave up at the alchemy conference because of their insufficient attainments in alchemy, so Yu Shi was not surprised. But after glancing at the pill box of the alchemist who made the speech, he was speechless again. Because he could tell at a glance. In the pill box of the alchemist who made the speech, there was a 5th grade qi and blood pill that could be found everywhere. If he couldn't even tell this, it could only be said that this alchemist was really rubbish. Since you give up, leave quickly, Yu Shi waved his hand impatiently. The alchemist who made the speech nodded, turned around and left, shaking his head and sighing, "It's too difficult, it's really too difficult." After taking a few steps, he raised his eyebrows at Zhang Chen again, not knowing what was wrong with him. "Brother, who are you?" Zhang Chen was confused. The competition continued. When Zhang Chen was about to stand up to answer the questions, more than 10 alchemists stood up at the same time. "Answer the questions one by one," Yu Shi scolded. "We don't want to answer the questions." The leading alchemist bowed and said, "This alchemy meeting is too difficult, we are not strong enough, so we decided to give up together." Yu Shi had a question mark on his face. Not only him, but also Elder Zheng was extremely confused. Too difficult. The two cast a probing look at the alchemy boxes of these alchemists and found that they were also some pills that can be seen everywhere. Are all the alchemists of this session so unbearable? Elder Zheng frowned. The voice fell. Dozens of alchemists stood up again and also expressed their intention to give up. After these alchemists left, there were only more than 30 alchemists left on the alchemy platform, which just met the number of winners of the first competition. The remaining alchemists, collectively advance. Xilin took the opportunity to shout. Glancing at Zhang Chen, Yu Shi felt annoyed. But at this moment, he had to admit it. Without saying a word, Zhang Chen did advance. This is unreasonable. Yu Shi complained in his heart. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 322. It is indeed unreasonable. In Yu Shi's opinion, the reason why these alchemists participated in the alchemy conference was to prove themselves. If they could win the favor of the dynasty, they would be very successful. But what is this collective abstention? Recalling Dong Yao's slander and the scene of hundreds of alchemists smashing themselves with huge tripods, Yu Shi thought that these alchemists were also crazy, but there was no evidence. After glaring at Zhang Chen, Yu Shi announced the start of the second test. The second test is called Self-Created Alchemy Formula. Dan Gyuda will give a question and select a medicinal effect. The alchemists will create a formula that meets the medicinal effect within a limited time. The so-called self-creation is naturally a formula that has never appeared in the world. This is a great test of the alchemist's talent, experience, etc. From ancient times to the present. Regardless of the grade of the formula, those who can create their own formula have certain attainments in the way of alchemy. If the first test tests the basic skills of the alchemist, then the second test tests the talent. This time, the question asked by Dang Gyuda was qi and blood. In short, it was to let all the alchemists create a recipe that could quickly restore qi and blood, and finally select the top 10 according to the grade and efficacy. Yu Shi had just announced the start of the second test, and many alchemists had signs of getting up. Seeing this, Zheng Gilao scolded in advance, the path of alchemy is difficult and obstructed, and the road is long and long. How can you alchemists give up easily? This second test does not allow abstention. 5th grade and 6th grade alchemists must successfully create a recipe, otherwise they will be investigated for making trouble. If the investigation is true, it will bring disaster to the sect. Obviously, the collective abstention in the first test made the Huanga Gilao who came from afar extremely dissatisfied. The elder is wise. Yu Shi agreed very much. In this way, Zhang Chen's promotion was undoubtedly cut off. After all, according to the information he had, he knew very well that Zhang Chen had no experience in alchemy. How could he create an elixir by himself? What Yu Shi didn't know was, in this life, Zhang Chen had never learned the way of alchemy, and had never even refined an elixir. But even if his talent in alchemy was not good, with his experience accumulated in 9 lifetimes, Zhang Chen was undoubtedly a 6th grade alchemist at this moment. And for a 6th grade alchemist, it was not difficult to create his own elixir formula. The second test officially began. Glancing coldly at Yu Shi and Zheng Gilao, Zhang Chen frowned and thought deeply. With his attainments in alchemy, it was not difficult to create his own elixir formula, but the difficulty was how to stand out and become one of the top 10 to advance. The development of things was somewhat beyond his expectations. He thought that he would be able to obtain some alchemy rewards through the system when he came to Dangu Pagoda this time. But who knew? In this visit to Dangu Pagoda, he only triggered 2 rewards in total. The first time was the portrait of Xilin, which was of no use at all. The second time was the ancient pagoda elixir scroll. Although the ancient pagoda elixir scroll recorded a lot of elixir formulas and refining experience, his alchemy talent was of no substantial help. Helplessly, he had already arrived at Dangu Tower, so he could only bite the bullet and attend the alchemy meeting, hoping to get some more system rewards at the alchemy meeting. Only. Looking around, Zhang Chen frowned. This alchemy meeting is too weird, isn't it? Xilin's madness did not exceed his expectations, but what the hell are the elders of Dangu Tower and the alchemists who are looking at him with bright eyes? Why do these people look more and more abnormal? Are they all crazy? The more Jiang Chen thought about it, the more possible it was. But he didn't expect that the crazy people this time were different from the previous ones. From the surface, there was no sign at all. Crazy people can also evolve. Jiang Chen suddenly opened his eyes and took a breath of cold air. Wasn't it that if he didn't investigate carefully in the future, even he couldn't tell who was crazy? It was terrible. No longer thinking about it, Jiang Chen focused on the self-created alchemy recipe. The title was Qi and Blood. This reminded Jiang Chen of the exhaustion of blood and qi when he met Lin Feng outside Danggu Tower. Although he didn't know what Lin Feng had encountered, he was sure. The reason why Danggu Tower used blood and qi as the topic must be that Yu Shi wanted to use this to make a deal and help Lin Feng find some better blood and qi enhancing pills. This Yu Shi is really a good master. Jiang Chen sneered in his heart. But he didn't care. After all, he came to Danggu Tower this time to kill Yu Shi, and Lin Feng, the son of destiny, would not be a big deal even if he gained some small benefits. Thinking of this, Jiang Chen began to think deeply about the pill formula. Low-level pill formulas are not good, they must be above the 4th level to be able to enter the top 10. Although he guessed that all the alchemists might have gone crazy, for the sake of safety, he still had to rely on his own strength to advance. This thought took several hours. Finally, he gave up. Although he was a 6th-grade alchemist, his alchemy talent determined that he could not create a high-level recipe. At best, he could only create a 3rd-grade recipe. Time's up. Alchemist, answer the question, suddenly, Yu Shi shouted. Seeing that no alchemist took the initiative to answer the question, Yu Shi looked at Jiang Chen and said, "The Zhang family of Fengling in the upper domain is famous, and the Juyan demon sect is a major sect in the central domain. Then let's hear first, does the young master of the Zhang family, the senior brother of Juyan Zhufeng, Jiang Chen, have a recipe that will make us shine?" Hearing this, many second-rate sects who came covered their mouths and laughed. These people knew very well that Yu Shi was deliberately praising Jiang Chen and then slapping him in the face. Many people did not like Jiang Chen. I didn't pay much attention to it before, but Yu Shi and Lin Fengagua were too exciting, so I was distracted for a while. Only the Wandao demon sect was silent, with a slightly uneasy look in their eyes. "Juxi, does Jiang Chen really know how to make pills?" "I haven't heard of it," Wandao sect leader asked Nangong Juxi. Glancing at the alchemists and the disciples who were laughing at him, Nangong Juxi chuckled and said, "Don't worry, sect leader, the first place in this alchemy conference must be Jiang Chen." Wandao sect leader nodded and said no more. And just when everyone's attention was focused on Jiang Chen, no one noticed. A demonic energy burst out from Nangong Juxi's fingertips, transformed into a snake, winding forward, and finally split into thousands of small snakes, rushing into many cultivators who were whispering and waiting to see Jiang Chen's joke. This is her innate demonic energy, which can be controlled at will. As long as the alchemy conference is over, she only needs to move her mind to trigger her own demonic energy, causing the possessed cultivator to explode and die directly, without leaving any trace. It can be said that no one knows. "Juxi, what are you doing?" As if noticing Nangong Juxi's action, the head of Wandao shouted in a low voice. "Doing good things," Nangong Juxi replied with a smile. "Good things," the head of Wandao frowned. "Yes, good things. Only when they are discovered, it is a bad thing," Nangong Juxi said as a matter of course. The head of Wandao was speechless. And just when he wanted to say something again, in front of everyone, Jiang Chen stood up calmly and prepared to answer the questions. At the same time, "Oh!" the Juyan clan members shouted loudly at the same time. "Listen to me. Whoever doesn't applaud later, I will eat him," Xiaobai shouted directly. "How can I eat him?" "Just bury him alive," Qingning shook her head. "Humph," Mu Kuei snorted coldly and folded his arms. Although he didn't say anything, his unique violent aura had already made the surrounding monks breathless. A bunch of lunatics. Zheng Ji Lao's mouth twitched and he cursed in his heart. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 323. After the Juyan clan members made such a fuss, the visitors from other clans no longer dared to laugh or whisper. Although the Empress had issued an order that no clan should provoke trouble. But a madman? Who knows if they will obey? Let's not talk about anything else, just talk about the hundreds of spirit boats floating in the sky. If the Juyan clan members went crazy and bombarded the Danggu Pagoda, I don't know how many people present would survive. For a while, the scene was extremely quiet. Many people looked at Zhang Chen. Although they didn't say anything, the teasing in their eyes was obvious. Just when Zhang Chen was about to speak. Wait a minute. An alchemist suddenly stood up and stopped him loudly. Hearing the voice, everyone frowned at first, but after seeing the alchemist who stood up, they put away their reprimands. Because the person who spoke was Dong Yao, who was destroyed by Yushi. Under the gaze of everyone, Dong Yao still had an unpredictable expression and a strong sense of self-confidence. After he bowed to the senior officials such as Zheng Ji Lao and Shi Lin, he said loudly, I just had a flash of inspiration and created a pill formula that has never been created before and will never be repeated. I can't contain my excitement. Oh. Zheng Ji Lao looked at Dong Yao and found that he was a 6th grade pill master. He couldn't help but straighten his expression. He felt that a pill formula that could be praised by a 6th grade pill master would definitely be eye-catching. Then you answer the question first and let me see the horizon, Zheng Ji Lao ordered directly. Obedience is worse than respect. Dong Yao bowed and nodded, then looked around and said. If it is a self-created pill formula, it is naturally nameless. This pill formula is mainly composed of blood vines and low-level demon pills, supplemented by hundreds of materials such as dragon ginseng whiskers and blood peony. It needs to be refined with 7th grade spiritual fire and 7th grade pill cauldron. It can greatly replenish the blood and chi of cultivators. Hearing this. Wow! Zheng Ji Lao and many sects' eyes lit up. The uproar continued. A 7th grade flexible and 7th grade alchemy cauldron is required? Doesn't this mean that it is most likely a 7th grade alchemy recipe? If that is true, Dong Yao, with the attainments of a 6th grade alchemist, can actually create a 7th grade alchemy recipe? This is simply a great talent. Zheng Ji Lao stroked his beard and smiled. Previous alchemy conferences have all produced many talents and competed for the top. How could this conference be full of monsters and demons? He thought that this alchemy conference was just nonsense, but he never thought that Dong Yao actually aroused some interest in him. This is the correct way to start the alchemy conference. Thinking of this, Zheng Ji Lao glared at Yushi. Such a good seedling was destroyed by Yushi, which is simply unbearable. Yushi's mouth twitched, not knowing what to say. Go on, Zheng Ji Lao waved his hand, signaling Dong Yao to continue. Dong Yao nodded, his expression more confident, and said, this pill can not only replenish chi and blood, but also has other effects, among which the medicinal effect is amazing. It can be taken directly or crushed and taken externally, and it can achieve perfect effects. Wonderful! Wonderful, Zheng Ji Lao laughed, one pill has multiple uses, and the medicinal effect is not reduced when taken internally and externally, which shows that its spiritual energy content is extremely high. Can you tell me specifically, what other effects does this pill have? Yes, Sir. Dong Yao bowed again. After looking around, he said in a sonorous voice, this pill. It is cool to the touch and lubricated when used. In addition to replenishing chi and blood, It can also. What else can it do? Zheng Ji Lao's eyes were full of expectation. Cure hemorrhoids. Zheng Ji Lao had a face full of questions. All the sects were almost broken by this sudden turn. Treat hemorrhoids. Cultivators are not ordinary people, why would they need such elixirs? Wait. Everyone suddenly thought of something. They glanced at Yu Shi, then at Dong Yao, and were silent for a while. They suddenly understood why Dong Yao invented such a recipe. For a while, everyone glared at Yu Shi with disgust. What does this have to do with me? Yu Shi shouted in his heart, life is hopeless. He suspected that Dong Yao did it on purpose. Deliberately took advantage of this competition to throw dirty water on him again. Zheng Ji Lao did not give up, and continued to ask, then what grade is your recipe? Reply to Ji Lao, this is the second grade, Dong Yao replied in seconds. Zheng Ji Lao's mouth froze. Second grade? Such a low grade, but it needs 7th grade alchemy fire and 7th grade alchemy furnace. What's the fuss? Please forgive me, with my attainments in alchemy, this is the limit of the recipe I can create. Dong Yao spread his hands helplessly. Zheng Ji Lao's head hurt. He wanted to scold Dong Yao, but because of his pity, he just looked away in the end. Suddenly, another alchemist stood up and said excitedly, everyone, I have realized an alchemy recipe, which is shocking and amazing to the gods and demons. Oh! Zheng Ji Lao's eyes lit up again. Worried that this was another nonsense, he went straight to the point, how effective is the recipe you created? What grade is the pill? It is extremely effective. In addition to replenishing qi and blood, it can also prevent wind and cold. The pill is 1st grade. The alchemist replied immediately. Zheng Ji Lao was speechless again. The alchemist who spoke was the same as Dong Yao, both of them were 6th grade alchemists. As a 6th grade alchemist, he was so excited about creating a 1st grade elixir. It was really shocking. The gods and demons were amazed. Get out! Zheng Ji Lao was angry and shouted immediately. The alchemist who spoke did not show any fear when he heard this, but raised his eyebrows at Zhang Chen, then jumped off the alchemy platform and gave up the next game. After this person left. Lord, the recipe I created can replenish qi and reduce lifespan, and it is also a 1st grade elixir. The recipe I created has indescribable magical effects, but it is only a 1st grade and a half elixir. Let's show off, no more pretending. I am well versed in elixir and have just realized a 2nd grade elixir recipe. Many alchemists stood up and said one after another. Get out! Get out of here! Lord Zheng was so angry that he blew his beard and glared. This is an alchemy conference. But the alchemists in front of him were actually creating some low-level elixirs and were complacent about it. It was ridiculous. Like the previous alchemists, after hearing what Lord Zheng said, these alchemists left dejectedly. Yu Shi counted. There were exactly 10 alchemists left at this moment. The number of people has reached the standard, and the remaining people will be promoted. Shi Chen took the opportunity to shout. But she hadn't finished her words yet. What a conspiracy! What a conspiracy! Yu Shi beat his chest and stamped his feet, looking at Zheng Ji Lao to complain, gentlemen, there must be a conspiracy. I demand a thorough investigation. Confidential conspiracy, Zheng Ji Lao frowned, this alchemy conference was held by your Dangu Pagoda, and the alchemist was also selected by your Dangu Pagoda. What is the conspiracy? Are you trying to tell me that your Dangu Pagoda is involved in a conspiracy? Yu Shi was speechless. Hearing this, Shi Ren said indifferently, as everyone knows, the Great Elder is in charge of this alchemy conference. If there is a conspiracy, he must also take full responsibility. Yes, yes, the other elders of Dangu Pagoda all agreed. At this point, even a fool can see that there is something wrong with this alchemy conference. With an attitude of fairness and openness, Zheng Jilao looked at Zhang Chen and said, "Now this elder has reason to suspect that you colluded with Yu Shi and intended to get away with it? You answer the questions quickly. If you cannot create your own recipe, this alchemy conference will be cancelled." Zhang Chen was speechless. He colluded with Yu Shi to set up the conspiracy? Funny, right? He was also confused at first, but he didn't expect that after a circle, the blame would still be thrown on him. As for his collusion with Yu Shi? This is purely funny. Who doesn't know that he and Yu Shi don't like each other? Zhang Chen didn't want to be confused with Yu Shi, so he talked about it. The pill formula I created is mainly composed of beast bloodvine and cassia mother, supplemented by... Stop, Zheng Jilao interrupted, is it first grade or second grade? Can it cure hemorrhoids or colds? It is extremely difficult to create a pill formula by yourself. Usually, even a 6th grade alchemist can only create a 3rd grade or 4th grade pill formula. In his opinion, even if Zhang Chen can create a pill formula by himself, the level will not be higher than the 2nd grade. Maybe he will come up with some strange effects like other alchemists. Who would have thought? 3rd grade, although not as good as 4th grade, but not far behind, Zhang Chen replied. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 324. After testing, it was discovered that the elixir recipe created by Zhang Chen was indeed of the 3rd grade. Oh! The people of Juyan sect shouted again. After a brief moment of shock, the other sects all cast incredulous looks at Zhang Chen. Yu Shi and Mr. Zheng Ji frowned at the same time. The two of them never expected that Zhang Chen could actually make pills. Although his alchemy talent is not perfect, it is indeed much better than that of ordinary alchemists. Finally, Zhang Chen, Dong Yao, and several alchemists were promoted together, and they were all 6th grade alchemists, a total of 10. In previous alchemy conferences, the competition usually took several days, but this time it was surprisingly fast. It only took half a day to enter the 3rd trial. And this 3rd trial is a real competition in elixir refining. The Alchemy Pagoda prepares the materials, and 10 alchemists compete on the same stage to refine the alchemy. Finally, they are ranked according to the quality of the elixir. Since Lin Feng will participate in the 3rd trial, and the process of this alchemy meeting is relatively fast, Mr. Zheng Ji gave the alchemists several hours of rest time to adjust their status. Sitting cross-legged on the alchemy stage, all the alchemists were holding their breath and remaining calm, except for Zhang Chen, who was looking left and right. He is searching. Find out who can earn system rewards. My family knows their own affairs. Zhang Chen knew very well that Lin Feng should be a 7th level alchemist now. And if you want to defeat him head-on in the 3rd trial, you must improve your alchemy talent. Originally, Zhang Chen was happy to see Lin Feng's rise. After all, this Destiny's son is too stretched and has been tortured too badly. But who made Lin Feng insist on competing with him on the alchemy path? If you lose, won't you get slapped in the face? After 9 lifetimes, Zhang Chen didn't want to experience this kind of thing again. Although Lin Feng's character was despised by everyone because of Dong Yao's words, if this destined son showed extraordinary talent in alchemy, he would definitely be valued by Mr. Zheng Ji and thus connect with the dynasty. This matter may involve the Zhang family and must be avoided. Waved. After some searching, Zhang Chen frowned helplessly. All crazy. The alchemists competing on the same stage are lunatics, and the senior officials of Danggu Pagoda are also lunatics. Although it is not impossible for a madman to earn system rewards, the difficulty of triggering the rewards is unknown, and there is no sense of satisfaction, so he is definitely not the best candidate. There were quite a few normal people from various sects who came to watch the meeting. But these people were oppressed by the aura of the Juyan sect and did not dare to look at Zhang Chen at all. If Zhang Chen went directly to find trouble, it would be easy for Yu Shi and Zheng Gilao to seize the opportunity, thereby risking being cancelled from the competition. Tisk. Zhang Chen clicked his tongue, looking dissatisfied. And just when he was thinking about whether to make do with it and use a madman to gain system rewards, unexpectedly, he found that Yu Shi was holding his arms in his arms and looking at him provocatively. Zhang Chen squinted his eyes, and a cold light flashed within them. With a roll of his eyes, he winked at Mu Kuei, who was watching the meeting. Worried that Mu Kuei wouldn't understand what he meant, he directly whispered, "Go. Beat up Yu Shi." Hearing this, Mu Kuei immediately trembled. "Old thief, take your life." After a loud shout, Mu Kuei's body like an iron tower immediately jumped up from the viewing platform. His expression was ferocious, and the muscles all over his body were bulging. The surface of the muscles is densely covered with blood, just like fresh blood, and the bones inside reflect the golden light, shining brightly. The blood light and the golden light are mixed together, just like the return of the Emperor Wu, lusting for blood to stain the sky. Mu Kuei had already decided that he would only practice one punch in his life. The name of this boxing is Kaishan Ancient Boxing. Since leaving the Buddha temple, Mu Kuei has become more and more proficient in mastering his own martial emperor's body. Relying on the memory of Emperor Wu, his understanding of this ancient boxing style has become deeper and deeper. When he jumped into the air, he pulled his arm back sharply. A strong, ancient aura emerged from his body. The aura was silent, violent, and full of chilling. Spiritual energy gathers in the fist, constantly compressing and condensing, until it reaches its limit and the spiritual energy makes a sound like cracking. "Open the mountain." At the same time as he punched out, Mu Kuei yelled angrily. The shadow of a huge fist came out from his fist, aiming directly at Yu Shi. Yu Shi was immediately shocked. He couldn't understand why Mu Kuei, who was fine a second ago, suddenly went crazy. Seeing that the power of this ancient fist was too strong, Yu Shi quickly took out the Elder Token and summoned the Sex Formation to protect himself. Several rays of divine light came from all around the Dangu Pagoda, forming several solid formations. The shadow of the fist came into contact with the formation, and the two were in a stalemate for a moment. Just a few click sounds were heard, and several formations were shattered one after another. This made Yu Shi even more shocked. "I didn't expect that Mu Kuei's combat power was so terrifying that he could break the formation with his fists." At the critical moment, a purple-green dragon cauldron appeared in front of Yu Shi, and at the same time a fire dragon spewed out of his mouth. Although the alchemist is not very powerful, he is worth a lot of money. Although Yu Shi was only a 7th grade alchemist, the alchemy cauldron he took out was an 8th grade alchemist, and the fire dragon pill fire he spit out was also a 7th grade alchemist. The alchemy cauldron rotates and vibrates, and the alchemy fire flutters like a snake entwining itself. The phantom of the ancient fist broke through the magic circle, and its power was greatly reduced. At this moment, it was blocked by the two, and finally turned into a spiritual energy that collapsed. At the same time, Mu Kuei landed on the ground and stood in front of Yu Shi. After the disaster, Yu Shi was already dripping with cold sweat. Seeing that Mu Kuei was about to take action again, he immediately shouted to Mr. Zheng Ji, "Mr. Ji, save me." At this time, Mr. Zheng Ji had obviously just recovered from his confusion. He never expected it. "I didn't expect to sit by myself. Zhen, this Mu Kuei dared to make trouble. He simply didn't take him seriously." Humph. After a cold snort, Zheng Ji Lao suddenly stood up. His breath continued to rise, and the rare and exotic beasts on his yellow robe seemed to come alive, making all kinds of howling sounds. And just when he was about to take action, a loud shout rang out. "Mu Kuei! Stop it quickly! Elder Yu, I'll help you." As soon as the voice fell, Zhang Chen rushed over with a sword, and kicked in the air. Kicked Yu Shi in the face. Yushi, who was in a daze, was kicked several feet away. As luck would have it, he finally fell into Zheng Jiyilao's arms. Glancing at Yushi in his arms, Zheng Jiyilao suddenly felt a chill, raised his hand and slapped Yushi to the side. Puff. After being injured continuously, Yushi finally fell on the dantai and spit out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Zhang Chen pretended to be surprised and looked incredible. "Lord, the situation was urgent just now, I had to use this method to rescue Elder Yu to a safe distance. But how could you do it suddenly? Look at how Elder Yu was slapped, his mother almost didn't recognize him." Lord Zheng was speechless. Can he be blamed for this? No. Anyone who sees a pervert throwing himself into his arms will slap him reflexively, right? Besides, do you really think he is stupid? Zhang Chen's kick just now was obviously extremely hostile. It is likely that it was done intentionally. "Zhang Chen, Mu Kui," Lord Zheng was angry and shouted, "How dare you make trouble in the Dan Club? What crime should you be punished for?" Zhang Chen had not had time to reply. "Not guilty." Shilin stood up and spat. Yushi stared at Zhang Chen just now, and he must have a plan. Mu Kui saw that his senior brother was stared at by such a pervert, so it was reasonable for him to act rashly. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Tuo. Chapter 325. In fact, many people found that Yushi often stared at Zhang Chen with an incomprehensible expression. Everyone originally thought that this was because Yushi didn't like Zhang Chen. But at this moment, after being reminded by Xining, I discovered. Maybe, he really has a plan. After all, although Zhang Chen is bad, he is personable and handsome. It is reasonable for him to be targeted by Yushi, a pervert. Even Mr. Zheng Ji accepted this statement and frowned. But, even so, Zhang Chen and Mu Kui took action brazenly, but still didn't take him seriously. "Even so, he is still guilty," Mr. Zheng Ji said coldly. Hearing this, many people showed dissatisfaction. Xining, the elders of Danggu Pagoda, and the people of Juyan sect all looked at him angrily. Zhang Chen felt a headache. His original plan was. Mu Kui was asked to beat the person first, and then he beat Yushi severely under the guise of saving the person. If Mr. Zheng Ji pursues the case, it is also his responsibility to hold Mu Kui accountable. He has been rescuing people from the beginning to the end, so why is he guilty? As for what kind of punishment Mu Kui will receive, Zhang Chen is not worried. After all, this guy is the reincarnation of Emperor Wu. Although his current cultivation level is not very high, if he really wants to run away, it will not be difficult. I just didn't expect that. Thanks to Xinin's various conjectures, it turned out that Yushi had designs on him. Mu Kui couldn't stand it anymore, so he took action boldly. Although the results are similar, they still make people feel uncomfortable. And just when Zhang Chen was thinking about whether to simply go for something hard. After Xining and the elders of the ancient alchemy pagodas looked at each other, everyone jumped up from their seats at the same time. Falling next to Yushi, who fell to the ground. Without any hesitation, everyone rolled up their sleeves and started punching and kicking him. The beating made Yushi scream and wail non-stop. Obviously, they wanted to use this move to tell Mr. Zheng Ji, "If you want to punish them, then punish them too." When Zhang Chen saw this, he thought it was an opportunity, so he went up and kicked Yushi. Yushi, who was already injured, could not withstand the beatings of so many people, so he had to ask Mr. Zheng Ji for help again. Mr. Zheng Ji was furious. "But I haven't had time to scold him yet." Juyan sect leader Gu Changqing, along with several peak masters and many disciples, also jumped up and lined up on the alchemy stage. They took turns and punched and kicked Yushi. Zhang Chen went up and kicked him twice. When Nanggong Juxi saw this, She found it quite interesting and joined the group fight. The head of Wandao was worried that Nangong Juxi would be held accountable, so he led a group of disciples to join the battlefield with the idea that the law should not be held accountable. The actions of the 10,000 Dao demon sect gave rise to ideas in other sects. Yushi is so disgusting. If he doesn't go up and kick him, wouldn't he show that he is not contemptuous enough? Thinking of this, more sects joined in. In an instant, the entire Danhui was in chaos, and apart from the sounds of punches and kicks, there was Yushi's constant wailing. And beside the Dantai, Qingning and Xiaobai have begun digging holes. From the beginning to the end, Zhang Chen was never idle. In order to increase the villain's value, he tried his best to kick Yushi's vital points. And the attack is even more severe. Finally, the host's behavior conforms to the villain's setting, and he is promoted to a 7th-level alchemist. Call. Zhang Chen let out a long sigh of relief. At this time, Yushi felt that he was about to die. At the beginning, he could still cry out for help, but as time passed, even his screams became fainter. Finally, presumptuous! Mr. Zhengji roared angrily, and the aura belonging to the late stage of the creation realm made even the air tremble. He is furious. The lunatics didn't take him seriously at all, they simply regarded him as nothing. If he is not severely punished this time, where will his face go? Where is the face of the Imperial Pavilion and the dynasty? Although there are many lunatics nowadays, many lunatics are comparable to him in cultivation, but he only needs to send a message to the Imperial Palace, and strong men will come here to suppress everyone. Perhaps he noticed that Mr. Zhengji. Out of anger, all the madmen stopped their movements in unison, turned around, and glared at Mr. Zhengji, with anger surging in their eyes. Goo! Being stared at by so many lunatics, Mr. Zhengji couldn't help but feel his scalp numb. A question suddenly occurred to him. The people coming from the Imperial Pavilion are indeed very fast, but can they arrive faster than these madmen can tear themselves apart? He doesn't want to die with these lunatics. Besides, what does he care about with a bunch of lunatics? How could he risk his life because of Yushi, a pervert? There was a battle between heaven and man in my heart. Now that you've beaten enough, let's go back to our seats. Mr. Zhengji slowed down his tone. Seeing everyone looking at him with strange eyes, he gently stroked his sleeves, controlled his spiritual energy to turn into a slap, and slapped Yushi hard on the face. To be honest, I don't like these remaining stones, he added. Zhang Chen nodded and returned to his original position. Seeing this, the other people also walked away from Yushi one after another and returned to their original seats. Realizing that the situation was out of control, and for the sake of his own life, Mr. Zhengji decided, please heal Elder Yu quickly. This alchemy conference is cancelled. After saying this, he was ready to withdraw. Only fools stay here, playing with a bunch of lunatics. But he just took one step. No. No, Yushi stood up staggeringly, his body swaying and said, I'm fine. The elixir meeting can be held normally. Is this okay? Mr. Zhengji was stunned. To know. At this time, Yushi was covered in bloodstains, with a swollen nose and face, and a weak breath. It would not be surprising even if he died suddenly. But in this situation, Yushi said that he was fine? And he also asked the Danhui to be held normally. After a little thought, Zhengji Lao understood. Yushi didn't want to give up the stage prepared for Lin Feng. In fact, everyone knew this, but they just didn't want to say it. But no one expected that Yushi would be so concerned about Lin Feng. It's disgusting. Helplessly, Zhengji Lao had to sit down again and urged, where is Lin Feng? Let him come to participate in the third test as soon as possible. Hearing this, several Dangyuda disciples turned around and left in a hurry to invite Lin Feng to come. A moment later, Lin Feng appeared on the Dantai. Before this, he had been in seclusion and knew nothing about what happened in the outside world. After traveling to Juyan sect and Buddha temple, Lin Feng only felt the relationship between master and disciple from Yu Shi, and understood what there is true love in the world meant. Seeing his master injured like this, Lin Feng felt a surge of anger. Trembling with anger. Master, who hurt you like this? Suppressing his anger, Lin Feng walked towards Yu Shi. He wanted to support and help Yu Shi heal his wounds. When Yu Shi saw his apprentice, he also burst into tears and had the urge to hug and cry. But after noticing the strange sights around him, Yu Shi had to suppress the impulse in his heart and raised his hand to stop him, saying, "Don't come over. Keep your distance." Lin Feng had a question mark on his face. He was stunned and felt uncomfortable. In the past, when Yu Shi saw him, he would pat his shoulder. When he encountered difficulties, Yu Shi would hold his hand tightly to comfort him. But at this moment, Yu Shi asked him to keep his distance. "Master, why is that?" "Look carefully, I am Lin Feng." "Aren't we the closest master and disciple?" Lin Feng asked loudly, puzzled. After this, after a brief shock, the audience was full of whispers. This master and disciple are really close. And they are still at a negative distance. I originally thought Lin Feng was good, but who knew he was a homosexual? This is the saying that you can only know a person's face but not his heart. Ah, this master and disciple really opened my eyes. I only realized now, no wonder Lin Feng could become the first true disciple of Deng Gyuda. It turned out that he took the back door. This is a brilliant statement. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 326. The voices of others talking could be heard. Lin Feng couldn't believe it. He, the son of destiny. The habit of cutting off sleeves. Did you go through the back door to become the true story? Who is spreading rumors about him? Lin Feng naturally didn't want to accept such a stigma, so he immediately looked around and glared at everyone. After he arrived at Danhui, he immediately saw the seriously injured Yu Shi, so he did not notice. Madman. All crazy. Not only did the madman from the Juyan sect come, but even Shi Nian and the many elders of Danggu Pagoda looked directly at him with full of hostility. I wish I could eat him alive. Gu. Lin Feng swallowed hard. Being well versed in the Tao of Go, he immediately realized that he could not stay here for long. Now that old man Tianji is still asleep, he won't be able to resist if so many lunatics go crazy together. Junior brother, be good, it's okay, Zhang Chen suddenly said. Senior brother, I guarantee with my character that nothing will happen to you. You have a shitty character. Lin Feng immediately complained in his heart. He didn't believe Zhang Chen's words at all. But just when Lin Feng was desperate and planned to ignore the elixir and just burn his blood and run away. But he saw Yu Shi's Hung looking at him with a pleased expression. At this moment, Yu Shi was swaying, seriously injured and trying hard to keep a distance from Lin Feng, but the expectation and pride in his eyes were obvious. For a moment, Lin Feng hesitated. He knew that Yu Shi treated him well, and this elixir meeting was the stage that Yu Shi had prepared for him. If he just ran away, wouldn't he be betraying Yu Shi's good intentions? Again. Isn't there still Huangage here? Although lunatics are crazy, they shouldn't dare to act recklessly at such a grand event under the supervision of the Imperial Pavilion, right? Now this group of lunatics are just looking at him without taking any actual actions, which is the best evidence. Thinking of this, Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that this was against ethics, but in order to live up to his master's expectations, he had no choice but to bite the bullet and attend the meeting. /U003CB R/U003E. Of course, before attending the meeting, you still have to establish a relationship with the people in the Imperial Pavilion to seek protection. Thinking of this, Lin Feng looked indifferent, cupped his hands towards Mr. Zheng Ji and said, "The first true biography of Dangu Pagoda, I have met Mr. Ji." Hearing this, Mr. Zheng Ji took a look at Lin Feng. This was his first meeting with Lin Feng. Although he despised his character in his heart, his favorable impression gradually increased inexplicably. Originally, Zheng Ji always didn't want to talk to Lin Feng. After all, talking to such people too much would make others doubt his character. But then he thought about it. There may be a hidden meaning to this matter. Maybe Lin Feng and Dong Yao were both coerced and lured by this pervert Yushi? If Lin Feng can be saved from water and fire, maybe he can even form a good relationship. "Are you Lin Feng?" Mr. Zheng Ji's eyes were half closed and his tone was indifferent. "Not bad." Lin Feng nodded. "There are rumors that you are lucky enough to be a golden dragon, and you are the son of destiny," Mr. Zheng Ji asked again. Lin Feng nodded again. Now that he is the son of destiny, it has been exposed for everyone, so there is no need to hide it. "Tell me, since entering the ancient Dangu Pagoda, have you ever encountered some?" Speaking of this, Mr. Zheng Gilao paused before saying implicitly, "things that ordinary people can't bear." As soon as this statement came out, there was another discussion in the spectator seats. Soon, everyone looked at Lin Feng from contempt to pity. Obvious. Like Mr. Zheng Ji, onlookers also subconsciously believed that Lin Feng had been tortured by Yushi. After all, this destined child does seem very friendly. If so, just say it, I will make the decision for you, Mr. Zheng Ji added. It seems that this elder has a good impression of me. Lin Feng was overjoyed. This is the first time we meet, and we have to stand up for ourselves. This might be another opportunity. Lin Feng felt that the question must be answered carefully. "Lao Huiji, everything is fine for me in Dangu Pagoda for the time being, and I have not been harshly criticized." Well, indeed. Since entering the ancient Pil Pagoda, everyone from the Tower Master to the disciples have shown great care for him and have not felt the slightest discomfort. Although Xining and other elders showed signs of madness at the moment, they did not do anything to him after all, so naturally they could not complain in advance. Lin Feng thinks this answer is perfect. Not only did he prevent himself from appearing arrogant, he also emphasized the temporary and did not say anything to death. But who knows? Wow! As soon as the answer came out, the whole audience was in an uproar. Even Zheng Ji's opinion of Lin Feng has changed. Become disdainful again. After all, everything is fine, doesn't that mean? Unlike Dong Yao, Lin Feng did all this voluntarily. Pooh! There was spitting in the spectator seats. This made Lin Feng confused. He always felt that this was completely different from what he thought. Feeling that he had not asked clearly, Mr. Zheng Ji said seriously, "What I am referring to is your master Yushi. How has Yushi treated you? Has he ever violated you?" "No," Lin Feng replied instantly, "Master treats me very well. My master and apprentice often sleep together and discuss the road together." Elder Zheng Ji was speechless. After a brief silence, there were bursts of boos in the spectator seats. Yushi was both moved and helpless, and could only shake his head and sigh. "All right. As soon as this sleeping with one's feet comes out, even if you really jump into the Yellow River, you won't be able to wash it away." Lin Feng was still in a daze, not understanding the situation at all. Suddenly, recalling that someone had just said that he was a homosexual, he suddenly understood something. "Lord, the actual situation is..." Lin Feng panicked and wanted to explain. "Shut up," Lord Zheng shouted, "stop saying dirty words and pollute the ears of the people present. We are not interested in the specific postures between you and Yushi. No, I want to say. If you dare to say it again, you will be killed. Lin Feng was speechless. Why did he get worse and worse? For this kind of thing, he would rather die than be misunderstood by others, so he had to bite the bullet and try to speak again. Yushi sighed and said, "Disciple, sit cross-legged, and we will talk about everything after the alchemy meeting." Lin Feng thought about it and it was right. No matter what he said now, it would be easy to be misunderstood by others. Instead of wasting words and making things worse, it is better to wait until you show your excellent talent in alchemy and win the first place in the alchemy conference, shocking everyone before you speak. At that time, with all kinds of halos, what you say will be more convincing. I will obey the master's order. After bowing to Yushi, Lin Feng prepared to take a seat. But for a moment, he was in trouble again. Originally, as the first true disciple of Dangu Pagoda, he should sit cross-legged in front of all the alchemists and attract attention. But Lin Feng knew very well. With Zhang Chen's personality, if he dared to stand in front of Zhang Chen, he would be slapped several times. By then, he couldn't beat him, and he couldn't run away. The face of the first true disciple of Dangu Pagoda would be completely lost. When Lin Feng was looking for other places to sit cross-legged, he suddenly noticed that there was an alchemist not far away. While smiling at him kindly, he moved to the side and made a space. Lin Feng remembered this person. It was Dong Yao, the true disciple of Linjiao Mountain whom Yushi often mentioned to him and whom he had seen many times. A real family man. Haha. After a faint smile, Lin Feng went forward and sat down next to Dong Yao. He patted Dong Yao on the shoulder and whispered, "Brother Dong, long time no see." Hearing this, Dong Yao first narrowed his eyes, then jumped up with a look of horror. "What? You want me to go to your room at night?" Lin Feng had a question mark on his face. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 327. When Dong Yao shouted, the scene was in uproar again. Everyone never expected this. They didn't expect that Lin Feng, the son of destiny, would be so shameless. He actually made such a request to Dong Yao in public. Seeing Dong Yao's panic and trembling expression, everyone shook their heads and sighed. The weak will be trampled and abused by the strong like this, without any room for recovery. Lin Feng. Dare to talk nonsense again, disqualified from this competition. Zheng Ji Lao frowned and shouted. "No, Ji Lao, I." Lin Feng hurriedly wanted to explain. "Shut up. If you say 5 annihilations again." Lin Feng was speechless again. "Hurry up and start the test," Zheng Ji Lao urged impatiently. Hearing this, the disciples of Dangu Tower went up to the alchemy platform and began to record the pills that the alchemists planned to refine, and then left to prepare the medicinal materials. Yushi took the opportunity to stop a Dangyuta disciple and wanted to watch the choices of the alchemists. The disciple whose arm he grabbed was frightened and jumped up immediately, his face turned pale, and he hurriedly said, "Great Elder, I can't do it. My cultivation is too low, I really can't stand it." Yushi's face darkened. The words of the Dangyuta disciple were once again accurately heard by the onlookers, causing the surroundings to be full of spitting. Yushi also knew that it was useless to explain at this time, so he had to bite the bullet and snatch the information jade slip recorded by the Dangyuta disciple to take a look. He saw Zhang Chen's name at a glance and frowned and said, 7-turn foundation shaping pill. As an elder of Dangyuta, Yushi knew it very well. This 7-turn foundation shaping pill is a veritable 7th grade pill, specially used for the upper 4 realms cultivators to stabilize the foundation of Taoism, and the materials used are also extremely expensive. He was extremely surprised that Zhang Chen could create his own pill formula. At this moment, he didn't expect that Zhang Chen actually wanted to refine a 7th grade pill. What a coincidence. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but the elixir Lin Feng chose is also the seventh revolution-shaping pill. And two alchemists refining the same elixir at the same time is definitely a head-on collision. Who is better, you can tell at a glance. /U003 She frowned slightly. He considered whether to do something. It can be seen that Shi Lin and other crazy people are staring at him with extremely threatening eyes at this moment, and he finally gave up this idea. Moreover, he has enough confidence in Lin Feng. After all, Lin Feng's talent in alchemy is the best he has seen since he entered the alchemy. And Zhang Chen? Fu Shi sneered. Even if Zhang Chen's talent in alchemy is good, what's the use? Without systematic learning, and in front of Lin Feng, the son of destiny favored by God, it's not good enough. Hurry up and prepare you. She waved his hand and handed back the jade slip recording the information. The Danggyuda disciples who were stopped ran away as if they were pardoned. Half an hour later, everything was ready, and the third test officially began. Although Zheng Jilao and the people in the spectator seats despised Lin Feng's character, they were still a little curious about how strong the alchemy talent of the Son of Destiny was. Therefore, when the competition just started, everyone's eyes were focused on Lin Feng. Sensing the many eyes, Lin Feng sighed in his heart, too conspicuous, it's against the way of alchemy. He considered whether to be more low-key. But thinking of the stigma he was bearing at the moment, and that he was going to compete with Zhang Chen in the way of alchemy, he straightened his expression. As the old man Tianji said, he is the son of destiny, and he does not need to follow the way of alchemy completely, but only needs to take the essence of the way of alchemy. When necessary, make a big splash. And at this moment, it is necessary. Because Lin Feng felt that his chance of winning the first place in this alchemy conference was as high as 99%. After all, since he met Zhang Chen, he had never heard that the latter could make alchemy. Who? After slowly exhaling a breath of turbid air, Lin Feng first mobilized the Dan fire in his body, allowing the Dan fire to emerge from the 7 orifices, like a fluttering snake. The Dan fire is hot and cold, emitting a faint light. Even if they are in the spectator's seat, they will sometimes feel hot as if they are bathing in fire, and sometimes feel cold as if they are falling into an ice cave. Seeing this, a spectator with vision immediately exclaimed, "This is the 7th grade spiritual fire, the mysterious ice crystal fire." When this was said, everyone was shocked. What does it mean to be able to receive and refine the 7th grade spiritual fire? It means that Lin Feng is now a 7th grade alchemist. The status of the alchemist is extraordinary, let alone the 7th grade. This level of alchemist is already the ceiling of the central domain sect, and even Dangu Tower only has more than 10 people. Zheng Jilao on the high platform also brightened his eyes and couldn't help but sit straight. After noticing the shock of everyone, Lin Feng smiled with satisfaction. This familiar feeling is back. As the son of destiny, people around him should be in shock all the time. This is what the son of destiny should be like. God is unfair. How can such a pervert have such a good talent? Suddenly, a bystander shouted. That's right. The 7th grade alchemist is a height that many alchemists can hardly reach in their lifetime. But this Lin Feng just reached it by using the back door? This is unfair. Putting aside the facts, this Lin Feng really opened my eyes. You don't even talk about the facts, what are you talking about? SHH, keep your voice down. This Lin Feng is a 7th grade alchemist after all, maybe we will need him in the future. Everything has a price. Before you ask Lin Feng for help, you should first consider whether your back door can be kept. These discussions made Lin Feng feel confused. Mr. Zheng Ji also had a look of disdain on his face, but he felt that Lin Feng was indeed very talented and said slowly, "Silence. This is an alchemy meeting. It only talks about alchemy, regardless of character." Hearing this, the spectators immediately shut up. Lin Feng breathed a long sigh of relief and bowed his hands to Mr. Zheng Jie to thank him. Mr. Zheng Jie originally wanted to respond kindly, but he was worried that interacting with Lin Feng too much would lead to corruption. In order to lose his reputation, he just ignored it. This made Lin Feng feel helpless. Then, he gently stroked the spirit ring and summoned a blue-gray three-legged alchemy cauldron. The alchemy cauldron is surrounded by a green dragon, which is lifelike. The lingering fragrance inside the cauldron is visible to the naked eye. The alchemy incense forms into dense clouds of several colors and spreads around, making you feel relaxed and happy when you smell it. Hiss, one of the spectators took a breath and exclaimed again, "This elixir cauldron, the dragon pattern on it seems to be alive, and the elixir fragrance condenses but never disperses. It is probably an 8th grade alchemy cauldron." 8th grade alchemy cauldron? As soon as the statement came out, everyone was shocked again. An alchemy cauldron of this level is by no means easy to obtain. Even if someone gives it away, it still requires sufficient talent to be recognized. And Lin Feng took out the 8th grade elixir cauldron, which means there is a possibility of being promoted to the 8th level alchemist. That was an 8th grade alchemist. Only the Imperial Pavilion existed in the middle domain. Even in the upper domain, he would receive the attention of the Imperial Court. Everyone guessed that Lin Feng's alchemy talent was very high, but they didn't expect it to be so high. For a moment, no one discussed Lin Feng's character anymore, but all looked at him with envy and passion. Many monks are considering it. If Lin Feng can help him refine an 8th grade elixir in the future, even if he pays the backdoor price, it is not impossible. After all, an 8th grade elixir is enough to change the lives of some monks. Equally excited was Mr. Zheng Jie. When he saw Lin Feng's 8th grade alchemy cauldron, he stood up suddenly, his whole body trembling with excitement. In fact, there are many elders in the alchemy pagoda who possess the 8th grade alchemy cauldron, but Lin Feng is different. Because unlike the elders of the alchemy pagoda, Lin Feng is still very young and has a great chance of being promoted to an 8th level alchemy master. Not only the 8th grade, but the 9th grade is not impossible. And being able to introduce such talents into the dynasty is definitely a great achievement. Okay, very good. It's not bad. Mr. Zheng Jie had a smile on his face and was about to give a few words of praise. But he wasn't done yet. A phoenix cry resounded throughout the sky. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 328. The sound of the phoenix's cry is sharp and ethereal, and everyone who hears it is trembling. Everyone followed the sound. I saw dense phoenix fire coming out of Zhang Chen's body and converging in the sky, forming a phantom of a soaring phoenix. The male phoenix spreads its wings for tens of feet. It is obviously a virtual shadow, but the feathers on its body are not moving in the wind. The phoenix crown is bright red and the phoenix eyes are leering, threatening the surroundings. Goo! Everyone swallowed hard, their eyes widened, and their faces looked horrified. What shocked them was not Feng Huo. After all, since the Xianbing secret realm, many people have known that Zhang Chen possesses such heavenly fire. What really shocked them was that Zhang Chen summoned phoenix fire at this moment. Doesn't it mean that he plans to use phoenix fire to make elixirs? Phoenix fire is heavenly fire, so there is no problem in using it to make elixirs. But the power of this kind of sky fire is extraordinary. Without sufficient cultivation support, it is difficult to completely control it. Humph, sensationalizing. After the shock, Yu Shi sneered. He was determined. With Zhang Chen's current cultivation level alone, it is impossible to control the phoenix fire delicately. Using this kind of sky fire to make elixirs will definitely destroy the elixirs and scatter them, and eventually make a pile of useless elixirs. Glancing at the phantom of the phoenix in the sky with some fear, Mr. Zheng Jie also shook his head. What about the young master of the Zhang family? So what if you are pregnant with a treasure? On the way to alchemy, if you have insufficient cultivation and insufficient talent, no matter how much external force you use, it will be in vain. And just when everyone was talking about it, Zhang Chen touched the spiritual ring on his hand again. A brilliant golden light came out from the spiritual ring on his finger. The golden light was dazzling, accompanied by the murmuring of ancient sounds. All those who saw and heard it, without exception, looked inexplicably dull. After the golden light faded, everyone could clearly see the true face of the objects inside. It turned out to be a bell with a golden dragon entwining its claws and densely engraved ancient characters on the wall. The moment the bell appeared, a simple and desolate atmosphere suddenly swept around. At the same time, buzz! A violent trembling sound came from the main tower of Dangu Pagoda in the distance. The trembling sound was like a wave, slowly swinging away. The sound wave touched the wall of the golden bell, causing the bell body to tremble as well. Then, boom! The bell rings. The sound of the bells is like waves, one after another. The bells ring in my ears. Everyone seems to be in an eternity. Everything in their eyes has faded, everything has decayed and withered, the wind and clouds have stopped, only the color of the golden ancient clock remains the same, and the golden light covers the sky. This is only for a moment. When everyone came back to their senses, before they had time to marvel, they found that everything had become normal again, and there was nothing strange about it. Dragon Cauldron General Ancient Bell, Mr. Zheng Ji said in horror. This bell was obtained by the ancestor of the Zhang family when he was young and fighting in another world. Although its grade is unknown, it is extremely powerful and is undoubtedly an ancient artifact. In today's world, any ancient items, secret books, etc. are considered valuable treasures and their value is immeasurable. Mr. Zheng Ji didn't expect it anyway. The Zhang family actually handed over such a valuable treasure to Zhang Chen. What's even more unclear is what Zhang Chen intends by calling out the dragon cauldron and the ancient bell at this moment. No, Yushi suddenly remembered something and shouted quickly, "Zhang Chen, put away the ancient artifacts quickly. Otherwise..." Before he finished speaking, the buzzing sound in the distance became even louder. I saw a grey stream of light coming from the main tower of Dangu Pagoda and stopping in front of Zhang Chen. The grey light faded away, and a danding with 4 legs and 2 ears, covered with dense ancient patterns, grey and reddish in color, surrounded by divine light, appeared in front of everyone. This is the ancient Dangu Pagoda's tower-holding tripod, the 4-legged divine pattern tripod. The tripod hung in front of Zhang Chen, with grey and red lights intersecting. Hui responded, and the iron chain on it clattered. Zhang Chen's mind moved, the ancient bell trembled, and golden light filled the air. Under the shroud of golden light, the 4-legged divine pattern tripod actually converged its light on its own and fell in front of him without any movement. No. Impossible. This is impossible. Seeing this, Yushi was extremely shocked. This 4-legged sacred tripod is also an ancient artifact, and it is the Dan tripod of the ancestor of Dangu Pagoda. After the death of Dangyuda ancestor, both the old tower master, Shinin, and the other elders have tried to use this ancient cauldron for their own use, but no one has succeeded. Because ancient artifacts have spirits, you can choose your own owner. Yushi guessed that under the influence of the ancient bell, the 4-legged divine pattern tripod would be drawn here, but he did not expect Zhang Chen was actually able to control the ancient tower's tower-holding tripod through the ancient clock. This is simply unbelievable. Regarding this result, Shining, the elders of Dangu Pagoda, and the Juyan sect were not surprised at all. Because they all know it. In his 9th reincarnation, Zhang Chen had used the special effect of this ancient bell to destroy the ancient tower-preserving tripod. The phantom of the male phoenix chanted again, and then fell headlong into the 4-legged tripod. All of a sudden, the phoenix fire burned in the cauldron, and the flames spread several feet, reflecting half of the sky. At this moment, everyone couldn't help but think of a question. Phoenix fire is extremely powerful. If the cultivation level is insufficient, the furnace will explode if used to make elixirs. But what if you use the ancient cauldron to make elixirs? The ancient cauldron is far from comparable to ordinary alchemy cauldrons, and its hardness is enough to hold heavenly fire. The ancient texts inside the cauldron can assist the alchemist to better control the alchemy fire. The two complement each other. Wouldn't it eliminate the possibility of furnace explosion? Not only that, it may also be able to better remove impurities, increase the rate of elixir formation, and at the same time improve the quality of the elixir produced. Using heavenly fire and ancient cauldron to make elixirs, even a 6th grade alchemist can produce a good 7th grade elixir, one of the spectators exclaimed. Hearing this, the others kept nodding. It is undeniable that Lin Feng's alchemy talent is indeed good. But the Zhang family is so arrogant. With both the heavenly fire and the ability to control the ancient tripod through the ancient bell, the first place in the third test must be Zhang Chen. Zheng Ji Lao frowned, his lips opened and closed as if he wanted to say something, but he finally stopped talking. How dare you? Yu Shi turned around and shouted angrily, Zhang Chen, how dare you take my Dangu Pagoda's treasure tripod to make pills? Taking it without asking is stealing. Zhang Chen rolled his eyes and didn't bother to pay attention to him. The ancestor of Dangu Pagoda once said that the ancient tripod has spirits, and those who are destined to take it will take it. Elder Yu, are you taking the words of the ancestor as fart? Shi Lin cursed. Yu Shi was speechless. He hated it. The ancestor said this at the beginning to encourage the disciples of Dangu Pagoda, not to really give the ancient tripod away. After all, in the entire central region, almost all the alchemists who have talent and are recognized by the ancient tripod are in Dangu Pagoda. Who knows? Zhang Chen got the upper hand. Besides, Zhang Chen didn't really get the approval of the ancient tripod, but was just controlled by the ancient bell. To put it bluntly, it was a trick. Yu Shi knew it very well. Shi Lin and other high-level officials of Dangu Tower were all crazy, and they didn't know why they all stood on Zhang Chen's side. Although he was the elder, he couldn't compete with a group of crazy people after all, so he had to look at Zheng Ji Lao for pleading. Aware of Yu Shi's thoughts, a group of crazy people also looked at Zheng Ji Lao coldly. Being stared at by the crazy people made his scalp numb again. For the sake of his own life, Zheng Ji Lao had to smooth things over. This is an internal matter of Dangu Tower, you can handle it yourself. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 329. Handle it yourself? Doesn't that mean you don't care? Yu Shi was despairing. If he expects Shi Nian and other senior officials of Dangu Pagoda to come forward to stop Zhang Chen, he might as well expect Lin Feng to defeat Zhang Chen with his excellent talent. Helpless, Yu Shi could only cast an encouraging look at Lin Feng. But he soon found out. After witnessing Zhang Chen using heavenly fire to refine elixirs and using an ancient cauldron as a tool, Lin Feng was stunned. Disciple, don't panic. Although Zhang Chen has the heavenly fire and the ancient cauldron, in alchemy he is more concerned about talent. Previously Zhang Chen had created his own 3rd grade alchemy recipe. According to this calculation, he is no more than a 6th grade alchemist. As long as he is stable, you can win, Yu Shi said quickly. Hearing this, Lin Feng smiled bitterly. He believed in Yu Shi's analysis and felt that if he exerted his full strength, he would indeed be able to defeat Zhang Chen. But here's the thing. At this moment, his winning rate dropped from 99% to 50 or 60%. It is absolutely against the rules to compete with such a low winning rate. For a moment, Lin Feng had the idea of giving up, but it was too late to give up at this time, and for the sake of his own reputation, he had no choice but to bite the bullet and continue the competition. Call. Slowly exhaling a breath of turbid air, Lin Feng lit the elixir cauldron with his own elixir fire, put the materials into the elixir cauldron in batches with great skill, and then controlled the elixir fire to burn it. After all kinds of materials enter the cauldron, they are quickly burned by the mysterious ice crystal fire, and the impurities inside form black smoke, which comes out from the alchemy cauldron. Lean slightly. Many materials melted into green spiritual juice, exuding bursts of fragrance, and began to roll in the air in the elixir fire. Lin Feng concentrated on controlling it carefully. The 7-turn plastic pill requires an extremely complicated process of removing impurities. Each tumble of the spiritual juice is 1 revolution, and 1 revolution takes several hours, totaling 7 revolutions. During this period, not only the alchemist's control of the alchemy fire, but also talent, patience, etc. are taken into consideration. If there is a slight mistake, the furnace will explode directly. Lin Feng is extremely talented in alchemy, and he can control fire and temper medicine just right. In the blink of an eye, a few hours later, the first turn was completed. The color of the spiritual juice in the elixir fire is darker, the spiritual fragrance is more intense, and the elixir embryo has just begun to form. Call. Lin Feng breathed a long sigh of relief. Are you trying to refine the 7th transformation plastic pill? Someone in the audience recognized the elixir refined by Lin Feng and exclaimed again. There are many types of 7th grade elixirs, and no one expected that Lin Feng would choose the more difficult 7th grade plastic pill. And the refining process was smooth, fully displaying the talent of alchemy. Lin Feng's alchemy talent even far surpasses that of the old alchemy pagoda master, someone said with emotion. Hearing this, many people agreed. The old master of Dangu Pagoda was already in his 60s when he became a 7th grade alchemist. But Lin Feng is not yet 20. The future is indeed limitless. Seeing this, Mr. Zheng Ji also nodded silently. At such an age and with such talent, he is worthy of being the son of destiny. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile when he noticed that the eyes were focused on him again. Although he followed Go Dao, he still preferred the feeling of being noticed by everyone. And just when he was controlling the spiritual fire and preparing to continue making alchemy, what Zhang Chen refined is actually the 7th transformation foundation pill, a voice exclaimed. What? Elder Zheng Ji was startled and immediately cast an exploratory gaze towards Zhang Chen. You won't know if you don't look at it, but you will be shocked when you look at it. At this moment, in the ancient cauldron in front of Zhang Chen, there is indeed a ball of spiritual juice floating in the phoenix fire. Judging from its fragrance and color, it is indeed the embryonic elixir of Xuanhuan plastic pill. And Zhang Chen's familiar refining skills and experience all prove. This Zhang Chen is actually a 7th grade alchemist, Elder Zheng Ji exclaimed in surprise. Voice. This conclusion was beyond everyone's expectations. Yushi was dumbfounded, and the various sects in the spectator seats felt as if they had been struck by lightning. Although Zhang Chen's bones are older than Lin Feng, don't forget it. Lin Feng is the true successor of Dan Gyuda, and although Zhang Chen is the only son of the Zhang family, he grew up in the Juyan sect. The former grew under the careful cultivation of Dan Gyuda, while the latter grew on its own. In comparison, the latter is undoubtedly more eye-catching. More importantly, judging from the alchemy techniques and experience, Zhang Chen is obviously more familiar with it. He may have been a 7th level alchemist for a long time, and he will be clearly better than Lin Feng. After coming back to his senses, Yushi shouted unreasonable again. It's really unreasonable. After all, according to the information he had, Zhang Chen had never refined elixirs at all when he was in Juyan sect. It is already unreasonable for Zhang Chen to be able to create his own elixir recipe, but now he is actually a 7th grade alchemist. This is no longer unreasonable, but damn. Looking at all the alchemy masters, before being promoted to the 7th level alchemy master, all of them have made countless alchemy, accumulated a lot of experience, and gained a far-reaching reputation. But Zhang Chen? It's like suddenly being able to make elixirs. It's simply unbelievable. Lin Feng, on the other hand, was already confused. At this moment, he felt that his winning rate had dropped sharply again. Directly reduced to 10% or 20%. The reason why there is still a 10% or 20% winning rate is due to the addition of the Destiny's Child aura. After all, at this moment, whether he is an alchemist, alchemy fire, or alchemy cauldron, he is all left behind by Zhang Chen. Lin Feng regretted it. He regretted that he had violated the Tao several times and participated in the alchemy conference in the spotlight. No, I will be slapped in the face again soon. No, I haven't lost yet. Lin Feng suddenly looked determined. There is a trick to refining the 7-turn plastic pill, which can greatly improve the purity. This is the trick. In the process of 7 turns to remove impurities, external force can be applied. In short, it is to draw the spiritual energy in the air into the cauldron, increase the momentum of the pill fire, and use the spiritual energy as a spoon to stir, so as to achieve the effect of double removal of impurities. This trick was discovered by Lin Feng by chance during several explorations. He is the only one in the world who knows it. And with the whole trick, Lin Feng dares to be sure. When the pill is formed, the quality of the 7-turn impurity elimination pill will definitely rise to a higher level. After making up his mind, Lin Feng took action. He closed his eyes slightly, and the cultivation of the above 4 realms attracted the spiritual energy around him, trying to introduce the spiritual energy into the pill cauldron. At the same time, what is Zhang Chen doing? The murmur of Zheng Ji Lao on the high platform attracted everyone's attention. Too curious, Lin Feng looked at Zhang Chen. He was so upset when he saw it. He saw that the majestic spiritual energy was attracted by Zhang Chen and was rushing into the ancient cauldron like crazy. In an instant, the phoenix fire became hotter and hotter, and the huge flame soared into the sky. And the spiritual energy introduced into the pill fire, under Zhang Chen's control, turned into a spiritual spoon and slowly stirred. The power of the phoenix fire and the stirring of the spiritual spoon made the pill embryo liquid of the 7th revolution plastic pill rotate and turn at a much faster speed. In just half an hour, the 2nd and 3rd rounds of removing impurities were completed. Wizard. Genius. Seeing this, Zheng Ji Lao got excited and said, use spiritual energy as a spoon and burn fire to remove impurities. Such skills not only test the cultivation of the alchemist, but also test the talent. At this moment, even if the dynasty and the Zhang family are not on good terms, he can't help but stroke his beard and praise, Zhang Chen, your talent in alchemy is eye-catching. Hearing this, Zhang Chen just smiled faintly and raised his eyebrows at Lin Feng. Lin Feng had a question mark on his face. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 330. Lin Feng couldn't understand it at all. Why does Zhang Chen know this technique of burning fire to remove impurities and using spiritual energy as a spoon? To know. When he discovered this secret, he asked many Dangyuta elders and was sure that no one else had discovered the secret. Lin Feng couldn't help but wonder. Could it be that Zhang Chen's alchemy talent is really better than his own? Is that why you can also discover the secret? What he didn't know was, although Zhang Chen has never participated in the alchemy conference in the 9th Reincarnation, he is very clear about Lin Feng's pretentious methods through the original work. In any case, Lin Feng now faces a choice. At this moment, Zhang Chen has used special techniques to reduce the time it takes for the 7th transformation basic pill to become a pill, while also improving the quality of the pill. So what should he do? Should I use this trick or not? After hesitating for a moment, Lin Feng gritted his teeth and decided. Use. If you don't use it, you will definitely fail. Gathering his mind, he controlled the surrounding spiritual energy into the alchemy cauldron and began to light the fire to eliminate impurities. Seeing this, Mr. Zheng Ji from the high platform shook his head. The spectators' seats were full of sarcasm. This Lin Feng is so shameless, he actually steals an army in the middle of battle. It's not impossible to steal someone's skills, but to blatantly use them to compete is shameless. What you two said is wrong, Lin Feng. The son of destiny. Do you want to show off? What brother said is absolutely true. It makes sense, it makes sense. How can a person who goes through the back door want to lose face? Ha ha. When Lin Feng heard these words, he had already expected them. He was unable to refute, so he had to keep a dark face. The competition continues. Except for Zhang Chen and Lin Feng who were refining alchemy normally, the other alchemists were sitting cross-legged in silence, with their deep eyes filled with what they were thinking. In the blink of an eye, one day later, the alchemy fire on the alchemy stage was still there, and no one onlookers felt tired. Along with the ZZ sound, the alchemy fire went out and the trembling alchemy cauldron stopped. Dan is done. A burst of elixir fragrance floated out from the ancient cauldron in front of Zhang Chen, filling the surrounding area and lasting forever. When I smell it, I feel refreshing. Haha. If you smell the fragrance of this elixir, you will know that it is at least a medium quality 7 revolution shaping foundation elixir. It is not impossible to have a superior quality. Old Zheng Ji stroked his beard and laughed. Yushi's face sank. Like water, his expression is uglier than eating shit. The people in the spectator seats, along with the people of the Juyan sect, started cheering. Although many people still dislike Zhang Chen. But an alchemist who can refine high-quality elixirs is enough for them to suppress the disgust in their hearts. At this time, Lin Feng was still in the process of refining the elixir, and he let out a long sigh. Although he is at the same level as Zhang Chen's alchemy master, Zhang Chen's Phoenix Fire and Ancient Cauldron have greater bonuses for alchemy refining, greatly shortening the refining time. There was nothing he could do about this. Now, all I can do is continue to concentrate on refining elixirs, hoping that with my destiny, I can refine higher grade elixirs. Zhang Chen, quickly take the elixir out of the cauldron and let me wait and see, Elder Zheng Ji urged. The voice fell. A Dangu Pagoda disciple came holding a wooden box. The wooden box was opened, and a slender spiritual spoon was placed inside. Its appearance was crystal clear and its body was surrounded by spiritual energy. This is the spiritual spoon specially used by Dangu Pagoda to obtain high-level elixirs. Different from low-level elixirs, when a 7th grade elixir comes out of the cauldron, a special spiritual weapon is required to prevent the elixir's spiritual energy from leaking out, or the elixir being contaminated by people or objects. No, I have something better, Zhang Chen refused with a smile. No one was surprised by this. After all, Zhang Chen is a 7th grade alchemist, so it is natural to be prepared. But who would have expected? In front of everyone's eyes, Zhang Chen gently touched the spirit ring, and summoned an ancient sword that was completely white, had 7 colors, and was full of simplicity. The moment the ancient sword appeared, whether it was the high-hanging ancient dragon cauldron bell or the 4-legged divine pattern cauldron, they all made a slight vibration. My sect's divine sword, the Grand Master of Qi Yao Sword Pavilion exclaimed when he saw this. As he said, the ancient sword that Zhang Chen took out was the divine weapon of Qi Yao Sword Pavilion, Qi Yao Ancient Sword. Because it would be too embarrassing to speak out, only the 5 masters of the Qi Yao Sword Pavilion knew about the loss of the Qi Yao Ancient Sword by the Qi Yao Sword ancestor. And coming to watch the alchemy conference this time, Qi Yao Sword Pavilion also had the idea of taking back the ancient sword from Zhang Chen if there was a chance. Nowadays, monks at the level of supernatural power and above are not allowed to be born, which means that Zhang Chen has lost his protector, and it is precisely to take back the ancient sword. The best time. It's just that the people in Qiyao Sword Pavilion didn't expect it. This time, in order to cheer on and encourage Zhang Chen, the 9-year demon sect came out in full force. Unexpectedly. In full view of everyone, Zhang Chen actually took out the ancient sword and showed it to others. Don't you know what it means that a common man is guilty of carrying a jade without any guilt? And the most embarrassing thing about this matter is Qiyao Sword Pavilion. After all, if this happens, everyone in the entire Central Territory will probably know that the divine spiritual weapon of the Qiyao Sword Pavilion was snatched away and fell into the hands of Zhang Chen. And so it turned out. After recognizing the ancient sword, after a brief moment of astonishment, the surrounding sects all cast disbelieving looks at Qiyao Sword Pavilion. This made everyone in Qiyao Sword Pavilion clenched their hands and glared at Zhang Chen with gritted teeth. In this regard, Zhang Chen just smiled jokingly. He had already guessed that the people from Qiyao Sword Pavilion must have heard that he participated in the alchemy conference and wanted to secretly take back the ancient sword. Adhering to the villain's consciousness of I will offend others even if they don't offend me, Zhang Chen naturally wants to embarrass Qiyao Jianj. In full view, Zhang Chen held the ancient sword and stretched the tip of the ancient sword into the alchemy cauldron. Soon, he took out a clear elixir with a halo of elixirs and a whitish powder in it with the tip of his sword. Hiss. Some people were shocked by the scene and took a breath of cold air and said, using a divine spiritual weapon to obtain pills, Zhang Chen is really arrogant. This is a slap in the face of Qiyao Sword Pavilion. Zhang Chen. You are so presumptuous. After shouting in unison, everyone in the Qiyao Sword Pavilion was furious. They opened their boxes and drew their swords one after another, their eyebrows about to split. Seeing this, everyone in the Juyan sect also took out their respective spiritual weapons and laughed GG strangely. Seeing that the two sects were about to fight, Mr. Zheng Ji quickly shouted angrily, the Empress's edict came first, do you want to stir up trouble and add 5 annihilations to your body? Hearing this, everyone in Qiyao Sword Pavilion was unwilling to return to their seats. After the Juyan sect members looked bored, they also put away their spiritual swords. This made Mr. Zheng Ji breathe a sigh of relief. After personally stepping down from the stage and testing Zhang Chen's elixir, he quickly returned to the topic. The elixir refined by Zhang Chen is of the 7th grade. As soon as this statement came out, everyone was shocked. You must know that even the elders of Danggu Pagoda cannot easily refine an elixir of this level and quality. /U003C. BR/U003E. What does this person prove? It proves that Zhang Chen's attainments in the alchemy path actually surpass those of the elders of the alchemy pagoda. As expected of the young master of the Zhang family, such talent is amazing. Elder Zheng Ji stroked his beard and praised him without hesitation. Although he said this in his mouth, in reality he was extremely solemn in his heart. Because the Zhang family has a descendant like Zhang Chen who is excellent in alchemy, this is not a good thing for the dynasty. I'll take a look at the elixir success rate later, Mr. Zheng Ji said again. The alchemist does not make elixirs alone, but puts several materials into one furnace and refines them together. The final number of elixirs is the elixir rate. For this alchemy competition, the alchemy pagoda provided each alchemist with a lot of alchemy materials. After saying this, Mr. Zheng Ji quickly stepped forward and cast an exploratory gaze towards the alchemy cauldron in front of Zhang Chen. What caught his eyes was an extremely viscous elixir liquid, impurities, and no complete elixir. 10% rate of becoming a pill, Mr. Zheng Ji frowned. Hearing this, the spectator seats exploded again. Logically speaking, even a 7th grade alchemist with little attainment would have an elixir success rate of around 30 to 40%, but Zhang Chen only had 10%. Although the quality of Cheng Dan is good, it is really a bit low. Zhang Chen seemed to have expected this and was not surprised. Cheng Dan rate has a large component of luck, but he knew very well that luck had never been a predestined relationship for him in the ninth reincarnation. All he can do is try his best. It would be best if you can win the championship based on the quality of the elixir, but if you can't. Thinking of this, Zhang Chen looked at Lin Feng, who was still refining elixirs. If not, then he would have no choice but to play dirty and find a way to destroy Lin Feng's alchemy furnace. Anyway, no matter what, he will not allow Lin Feng, the son of destiny, to override him in this life. When the other alchemists saw Zhang Chen looking at Lin Feng, his eyes were quite cold and stern. Everyone looked at each other and started refining the pill together. In the blink of an eye, it was several hours later. Ah! The alchemy cauldron is about to explode. Alchemist Dong Yao suddenly shouted, with a panicked expression. Then, throw the alchemy cauldron that was about to explode directly towards Lin Feng aside. Lin Feng was so frightened that he cursed.